USA History Guy talking about early English settlements. So one by one, European nations sailed to the New World, establishing settlements in the Caribbean, up north in modern-day Canada, and the English were the last ones to show up. It's not for lack of effort. The English tried to establish settlements in the 16th century. Their most famous failure was the Roanoke colony, where the mysterious disappearance of all the settlers has baffled people to this day. Then there was the nasty little business of some war with Spain that kind of held everything up until the early 1600s, and then the reign of King James I began. The first real successful English settlement was based on a business venture where people could buy shares out of a joint stock company and support the expedition. The Virginia Company, as it was called, sent men to the Chesapeake Bay area where they established their first settlement and called it Jamestown in honor of the king. Many of those early settlers struggled and died. They didn't come prepared. They weren't willing to work. They thought they were just going to show up and find a land of gold. Mostly they found death, but also they found Indians, some Algonquins, about 24,000 actually. For a while the relationship was okay until the English were plundering the Indian settlements a little too much. So the Indians retaliated and decided to starve out the colonists. They eventually ended up moving into the starving time, where they even resorted to cannibalism. This is also the era where you get the convoluted story of Captain John Smith and Pocahontas. No, they did not fall in love. She actually married a guy named John Rolfe, and later on a trip to England, she contracted smallpox and died. But John Rolfe was really the key to success at Jamestown. Somehow he got his hands on tobacco seeds, which the Spanish would kill anybody who gave up these valuable seeds. Rolfe ended up flourishing. The plantation at Jamestown made a lot of money, in modern day money, millions of dollars in tobacco trade. A lot of us grow up seeing some kind of Thanksgiving play in grade school, and we think that all the English people were the same, especially the Pilgrims and Puritans, right? Well, actually, they were quite different. The Pilgrims wanted to really find religious freedom in a way that required them to break away completely from the system. The Pilgrims first went to Holland, where they hoped they would find this freedom, but the Dutch men were seducing their daughters, so they then sailed for the New World. Perhaps you remember the tales of the hardy Pilgrims who sailed under the leadership of Governor William Bradford, and when they landed, they established the Mayflower Compact, the first document on North America land of self-government. That first Thanksgiving story is about the Pilgrims and their Indian allies who welcomed them up in Plymouth in Massachusetts. But aren't Puritans the same thing? Actually, they're not. One of the easy ways to remember what the Puritans wanted is to think about purification. They wanted to purify the Church of England and make it more conducive to what they believed, beginning with the fact that they would rather not be persecuted by the king. The golden age of Queen Elizabeth was much nicer to religious groups like the Puritans. James I and his son Charles I were not so kind. This persecution led the Puritans to flee and seek out that kind of freedom, and in 1620 they were granted a royal charter to establish their own colony in Massachusetts. After this Massachusetts Bay Company was established, it led to a great migration of Puritans. In a 15-year period, something like 20,000 of them made the voyage to Massachusetts. So all along the mid-Atlantic coast of North America, from the Chesapeake Bay area up to Massachusetts, the early English settlers continued to establish communities. They were different people with different motives who came at different times even, but eventually would form the future of the United States of America. If you want to hear about a specific event in American history, let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more videos from USA History Vlog.